My husband went to the grocery store the other day. I asked him to send me a video of the egg section because when he was driving his little grocery buggy past the egg section, he told me there were no eggs. I had asked him to pick up some just regular, conventional, cheapest eggs there because I wanted to do a comparison video of our eggs now that we have chickens, which I will say, congratulations to everybody who got into chickens in 2024. You are going to reap what you have sown because now you have eggs and you are like the most popular person on your block, which we are. So it's very exciting. Selling our eggs now for $65 a dozen if you want some. No, just kidding. But anyway, at the local Publix, there were no eggs. So I just looked it up, what's going on here. And all the news stations are blaming it on bird flu. So this is NBC Chicago. This is back in November before Thanksgiving. So the problem is going back weeks, if not months, but it's coming to our area now. So anyway, this is what this nice lady has to say.
In the run up to the holiday, you might notice something missing in your grocery store. A nationwide egg shortage is leaving shelves empty. In parts of the country, signs are asking customers to limit the number of eggs they buy because of difficulty sourcing. The main factor is bird flu, hitting 48 states over the last 2 years.
Okay, bird flu. What do you think, Joel?
Well, there's there is no end to whatever the machinations of idiocy, and so I've got a couple thoughts on bird flu, and let me say right up front that there are mounting. I'm not gonna endorse this 100%, but there are mounting credible indications that we have another Wuhan here, that this is a gain of function kind of thing that was manufactured and released inordinately. And here we are. So I'm not going to go any farther down that conspiracy trail. I'm just going to deal with it straight up. The main thing about bird flu is that it is being identified by a PCR test. Now, if you're up on PCR, you know that was used during the COVID scandal and has been largely discredited now. So I want you to think about this. Massachusetts is now the first state to say that the USDA and FDA PCR administration in bird flu is fraudulent. It's fraudulent because they're using 45 cycles instead of only 30. Massachusetts is the first state that has come out saying for sure that only a 30 cycle test is proper. So let me, Allison, let me break this down a little bit so people understand this deal. When you were in 10th grade biology class looking through a microscope, you had those little lenses on the bottom. One was like 35 power, one was 80 power, and one was 100 power. You could switch the little lenses on the bottom of the microscope. Remember that? Okay. Yeah. All right. So when we talk about the PCR test, this is a magnification technology that allows you to see, for lack of a better term, floaties. Floaties, it was mainly done to look at genetic material, but it essentially identifies floaties. Okay, I mean, imagine all of us, you, me, everybody. If you could actually, electron microscope our patina, our aura, it would not be a halo. It would be a halo that looked like Peanuts or like Pigpen in the Peanuts comic strip. Peanuts, Pigpen character. He's got this dust cloud all the way over him all the time.
Yeah,
and that's the way we are. In fact, think about early in the morning when the sunlight comes through your window and you can see dust in the air. That sunlight comes through the window. Well, imagine if you could magnify that by 1,000-fold, you would see pieces of DNA, pieces of strands of genetic material. You would see all sorts of things in there that obviously you can't see with your naked eye. All you see is the dust. And so when they talk about the PCR cycles, these are magnifications. 30, 31, 32, 30, 40. And the point being that if you magnify, if you run those cycles way high, you find what I call atmospheric detritus, okay? And even microbiome detritus. Look, you and I, Allison, look, we're breathing in who knows what, all right?
Yeah.
So if you could actually take a test and get it amplified to a certain point, goodness,
you can find anything.
Yeah, you can find anything, okay? Yeah. And so I'm belaboring the point because I think the average person doesn't understand when they say, well, we found bird flu. Well,
right.
if you came to me and did a test and you really wanted to find it, you could probably find bird flu in me. I mean, just because it's out there, and the technology that we have now allows us to look through dust, if you will. It allows us to look through the mitochondria. It allows us to look through these things we never looked through before. And so what that says to me is that that there is
it's like they wanted to. To me, what I'm hearing from you is like they want to find it. They
yes.
want to find it. Just like with COVID, I had this nice scientist, researcher, doctorate lady come on. She was in the Washington State area, and I think she contacted me actually saying, hey, everybody's getting tested with these PCR tests, and we're redefining what it means to be infected. Before, infected did not mean we just found something and then we said, you're infected. Like you have no symptoms, you have no problems.
Right.
My goat, for instance, okay, my goat had an issue, and this is like months ago, right before she gave birth. And people said, well, you could do a blood test, but unless you test like the actual issue, like it was an abscess, then you're not going to know what's causing the abscess. You could find anything in her blood. She could have antibodies to all kinds of different things. So you won't know what's causing the actual problem. So you do that. And then we found it was staph. Then you say, okay, well, was staph what caused the problem, or was it a nutritional deficiency or something? Because there's staph everywhere. I mean, staph is all over the place. Why did my goat get an infection?
Or even a wound for that matter.
Yeah. So, but it seems like we don't go down, all those different paths. Like in this particular case, we're just like looking for what we already want to find. It's kind of like modern day journalism. You already leave the newsroom, what you already figured out you want to find, and then you see it there, but you don't know if it's what's causing the problem or not. In some of these cases, but I just bring it back to this doctor she's a scientist, PhD. But when she came on the show back then, it was a very popular video at the time because everybody was getting PCR tested, thinking that this was, my audience, I think, was skeptical of it, but there were a lot of people out there that were going and buying like 10, 15, 20 PCR tests from Walgreens and just, testing themselves like every other day. And then all of a sudden, you had to stay home for 2 weeks and you had to do all these things because your PCR test came back. And she's like, we never have considered infection this way. And now we are totally redefining what infection means and what is that getting us? And is there an actual strategic move to redefine it that way? Or was it just a blundering response by the CDC? I don't know. Obviously, you kind of have to take your guesses there. But it just sounds very similar to what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, in the spring, I'll tell you a story. In the spring of 2020, Joe Rogan invited me to be on his podcast, and so when Joe Rogan calls, you go, right? And
I'm still waiting.
No, I don't think I can make it next week. Can we do it? All right. So anyway, I went down, and this in the spring of 2020 when COVID was hot. I mean, it was a big deal. And so he had me blood tested before I went into the studio with him, not because he was scared. He was just kind of doing his own private research. So he had a nurse there come and take a blood sample from me and run a test, and it came negative. And I said, well, so what is that? Have I had it? Have I not had it? And he said, it was a male nurse. He said, well, all it means is it's not in your blood. He said, you have to understand that you have two immune systems. Now, this was new to me. You have two immune systems. You have one internal and one external. And if your external is strong enough, to surround something and get rid of it, it'll never show up on the inside. So he said, checking your blood, I can't tell if you've been exposed to it, if your skin got rid of it. He said, all I can tell you is it never got past your skin. And it was striking to me, this admission of, well, we can test here, but there's a lot we don't know,
Yeah.
and so I think on this bird flu thing, we're seeing a questionable protocol, a questionable procedure, as if the real goal is not health. The real goal is, let's find something so we can make people fear, and that's a terribly whatever, it makes you distraught to think that people are actually that this is now the agenda. Let me say a couple things though, because I know people who have allegedly had bird flu in their operations, and I have never met a single one, not even a Tyson chicken grower, a factory house. I've never met a single one where all the birds in the flock or the house or whatever it is got it. There are always survivors. There are always ones, even in the most virulent cases, where chickens actually do die. So I don't want to say this is a manufactured thing. No, bird flu is real, and chickens birds can die from it. Okay, but I've never seen a single flock, a single house, a single anything in which all the birds got it or had it. Even in the most virulent case, there are always survivors. And so as a livestock producer, how do you increase genetic vibrancy, genetic strength over time? Well, what you do is you take the strongest, the best, the healthiest, and you breed them. And you cull the rest of them, the ones that don't grow as well, the ones that aren't as healthy, the ones that aren't, that you have to call the vet for. Okay. You get rid of those. And over time, over generations, you build up genetic strength, genetic superiority. And so for the life of me, Allison, I can't figure out why somebody doesn't say, hey, if you've got a 15,000 bird house that's got bird flu and you've got 150 survivors, okay, so only 1%, okay, survive. Well, let's keep those, let's breed those, and in a couple generations, we're going to have some really strong chickens, because we're keeping the ones that had a good functioning immune system.
But instead they kill all of them?
Instead, the policy is 100% annihilation, 100% extermination.
Is that a policy that everybody just falls in line with, or
Yes.
It's forced on them?
Well, I think both. I think both. I mean,
Well, in other words, are there repercussions if you don't kill all your chickens? Does the government come in and shut you down, or like consumers won't buy your products, or you're just like, because I just have only been farming for like 5 seconds, but I've realized that there's so much public pressure out there on farmers to do things a certain way that sometimes they're just like, just get rid of all my animals because I don't want the publicity nightmare, even if there's no science behind it.
Right. Well, yeah, there certainly is that, but no, once the state veterinarian gets his tentacles and his feet and boots on your place, which they have, the courts have given pretty much carte blanche permission for that. In fact, you may be interested to know that in the last 10 to 15 years, in pretty much all livestock health protocols from state and federal governments, the ownership issue has been transferred to the public. So, for example, now my cow isn't my cow. It is part of the national herd. My chicken is not my chicken, it's part of the national flock. And so the terms national herd, national flock, those are now ubiquitous within animal, within animal health protocols, so that there is an absolute cultural juggernaut here overriding property rights to give, the state vet, if you have a problem, they can absolutely come in and wipe, and they can bring the sheriff with guns and a SWAT team to make sure you comply. And so this is almost not something that a farmer could even if a farmer disagreed with the policy, it's not something really that a farmer can fight, because you've got the whole power of the military there, in the government's position, making sure that this is done. So that's one, to me, that's the single most egregious. I've got another one. The single most egregious part of the policy is that we kill the survivors. I mean, it's unspeakable that if you have a disease outbreak, that you kill the survivors. No, you treat the survivors like treasures. That they should be genetic treasures that that we surround, we embrace, and we protect them, and we breed them, and we go another cycle. That's one thing. And then the second thing then is, why don't, as they go around and find these things, I mean, let's assume that the finding is correct and accurate and whatever, not a conspiracy and stuff like that. Why don't they search for the nearby farms or nearby flocks that don't have it, to try to create what's the production, what's the lifestyle, dietary production, I mean, the whole thing, protocol, in why did this one get it and these didn't? That this would certainly be possible within the dairy industry. They're trying to find bird flu in dairy farms. They're going to check, pulling, milk out of tanks and stuff. And wouldn't it be interesting to, I mean, we've got AI now. We've got data ability up the wazoo. Wouldn't it be fascinating to take a metric of all sorts of things? Breeding, feed, soil, whatever, geography, housing, what kind of music is played in the dairy parlor? I mean, you can take all these different metrics, plug them in, and see where the patterns develop. And I guarantee you there would be patterns where, well, if you follow this pattern, we've never found any bird flu in milk from cows or chickens grown this way or handled this way. And eventually you would get a protocol that would be an immuno boosting protocol across the board. And that's not being done either. It's just we go in, we do this test at 45 cycles, which is 15 times more than Massachusetts says is acceptable. And we find something and we annihilate everything, and now you don't have eggs. It's just I mean, to me, it's just a preposterous. The whole thing is preposterous.
I'm sure they would say that it's a public safety.
Oh yeah,
right. A public safety issue. They have to take extreme precautions. Before you answer that, though, real fast, everybody, get your greenpasture.org promo code Allison, 10% off. Okay, Green Pasture, one of my favorite companies on the face of this earth. We have been taking in our family the fermented cod liver oil and concentrated butter oil blend for over a decade. I used to get cavities all the time. It significantly helped my kids. They take it every day. I tell them their teeth are going to fall out if they don't. I don't know if that's the right thing to say or not as a parent. But anyway, you ate a lot of candy, or maybe you didn't. Maybe you're keto, carnivore, whatever. You didn't eat anything over the holidays. But maybe you did. And you're like, you know what? I want to start the new year off right. I want to get something that's going to help me with vitamins and good omega-3s and all that good stuff. If you're just taking a fish oil, Not all fish oils are created equal. This is a fermented cod liver oil, and it is mixed with a high vitamin D butter oil. It's processed the way that Dr. Weston Price, a biological dentist turn of the century, said would help his patients that were suffering from cavities from industrialized food. Also a great idea to get off of processed foods. But anyway, you can get 10% off this product. I think you get an additional 10% when you buy a certain amount, like 5 of the little jars, but you'll go through them and then you'll always have one ready for you. Greenpasture.org, promo code Allison. Thanks again to Green Pasture. They are a very health freedom of speech oriented company, and they are just really wonderful to work with. So always have appreciated having them as sponsors for the show.